name is Jenny, and I'm a wife and mom raising 2 kids. But I used to live a more glamorous life as a TV reporter. I was on the nightly news interviewing pop stars and politicians. So when I said goodbye to TV and hello to motherhood, I suddenly discovered what we moms are up against. We live in a world that tells us to be rich and famous, thin and successful. You know, almost nobody says, "Oh, hey, you're a mom? That's fabulous." But you are fabulous, and I'm here to tell you why.
It's the Channelmom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
You're listening to the Channelmom Show, where we are celebrating you, mother, on Mile High Sports Radio. Really excited about this next guest, so we're just going to jump right into her. Hey, if you got a question for her, because she's talking about money and sex, so you really might have questions about that, 303-297-1510. Jill Savage is the founder and executive director of Hearts at Home, an organization committed to helping moms love their life. Love that. Hearts at Home offers several conventions for moms nationwide, and I'm excited to let you know that they have one coming to Colorado Springs next year, featuring Michelle Duggar as a speaker. We're going to try to get her on when they come. Jill is a columnist with Pantograph newspaper in Illinois, a sought-after speaker, and author of several books, including Living with Less So Your Family Has More and Is There Really Sex After Kids? She and her husband, Mark, who I believe is a pastor, have 5 children. Okay, welcome, Jill. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Oh, we're good. And I've got Shelly with me, too. She may ask you a question or two, okay?
Sounds good.
All righty. In this economy, let's just get right to it. I know that as the holidays approach, we all want to feel good about them. We all want to have fun. We all want to be festive. But we're feeling a little drawn down by the economy. So some moms are at their wits' end as they consider how to make ends meet. Do you have some tips that can change their lives when it comes to managing money based on your new book, Living with Less So Your Family Has More?
Well, you know what? One of the most important things for us to do is first identify what are our priorities, what are our values for our family, what is it that we're really working toward? Because sometimes we have spread ourselves so thin because we think this is what is most important for our family, and then we kind of, if we step back and take a look at it, we go, I'm not so sure that this is most important for our family. For instance, my husband and I had to make a decision about a year and a half ago. One of our vehicles, we had 2 vehicles, and one of them died. And getting a new vehicle meant we were going to have a car payment. Mm-hmm. Well, having to have a car payment meant I was going to have to go to work full time. Well, when we looked at that, we went, is that what we want for our family? Is it more important that we have 2 vehicles, or is it more important that one of us is here when the kids get home from school?
Yeah.
And so we really had to sort through that. I mean, it was a hard decision. And we made a decision to go with one vehicle because of our values. So sometimes we really have to sort through those values first.
Yeah.
Then we began to look at and stand up to peer pressure.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes we try to provide things for our family because that's what our neighbors are providing. That's what our friends at church or our friends at on the Little League team are providing. And sometimes we have to stand up to that and go, that's not important enough for my family. It might be for yours, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We have to stand up to that peer pressure.
Sure. We can't get judgmental about it. Both Shelly and I, at different points in the year, shut off our TVs. And so, and then, that saves us a little bit of money. And that is different. It's not typical in America to shut off your TV service for a little while. And it is one of those things where you feel a bit odd and what are we depriving our kids of? But in the end, we see that we're not really depriving them. It is tough, though, to make those decisions. And I think sometimes in America, we're not used to having to sacrifice. We're not used to just going against the grain and saying, yeah, really, we're gonna make it with one car, even though most of America makes it with 2 cars or 3 cars,
Exactly.
So it's weird. It's very weird. But you know what? Sometimes just a small silver lining in this economic, debacle that we're facing right now is that people are learning to sacrifice and learning to reset their priorities in some positive ways, don't you think?
I agree. And here's what happens, and this is part of the reason we wrote Living with Less So Your Family Has More, is that what happens is we look at less as a loss. But what if we looked at it as a gain? So when you decided to shut off your television, what you actually did is you gave your family more opportunity to talk.
Yeah.
And you see, when my husband and I decided to go with one car for a season of time, what we found is that he and I were spending more time talking because we were running errands together and running kids' places together that normally we would have done separately.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we begin to see some mores out of what originally looked like, oh, this is going to be a terrible sacrifice, it's going to be a loss. And yes, it was a pain sometimes. And I'm sure for you, when you shut off your TV, oh, I'd love to watch this show at, this time. But then you see the more and you go, oh, but we just had an incredible conversation with our teenage son. That wouldn't have happened if we would not have made that sacrifice.
And what do you say to moms who are rolling their eyes at us right now and thinking, well, that's easy for you to say. There's no way we could give up our cars, or one of our cars.
And it may not be a car or a television
so
or
what
any
else?
of the things we have. What is it for your family that you look at and you go, this is fluff? It's fluff for us. Or when you really look at it and you go, we're living paycheck to paycheck, and then you sit down and you evaluate and you go, what could we live without? What could we live without? And for every family, that could be different. But sometimes it's just the little changes that can make a difference. For instance, we get in our brain that every year when school starts, the kids have to have back-to-school clothes. Do they really?
Yeah, right.
I mean, sometimes they do because they outgrow them and, they've got high-water pants and you got to do it. But sometimes it's a matter of really evaluating what we currently have. Sometimes when I think I need to go to the grocery store, you know what I do? I go through my pantry and my freezer.
Yeah.
And I write everything down and I go, oh my gosh, I don't need to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't have the convenience foods I often have. But I have enough food in my house to feed my family for the next 3 weeks.
Right. I know there's always a bag of beans back there somewhere in the pantry. And I know Shelley does that. I think we're beholden to our stuff. I've made a vow to myself that I'm going to get rid of 7 trash bags of things, either to thrift stores or, for giveaways and so on, or into the trash. Because I agree with the simplicity thing. I find that I'm maintaining all this stuff and cleaning all this stuff and dry cleaning these things. And I think, this makes my life worse, not better. So I cannot wait. I've already cleared out about a trash bag and a half. I can't wait to not be so beholden to all the things I have in my house.
There is incredible freedom when we simplify our schedule.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a matter of simplifying our schedule because that's when we wrote the book, we wrote it with the intent of you can learn to live with less stress, less activities, and less money than what's culturally acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then your family can actually experience more. So sometimes it's a matter of we need to simplify our schedule. We need to learn how to say no when people ask us to do things, when we get asked to do 4 different volunteer efforts. In fact, in my home, one of the things that I do is I only accept 1 major and 1 minor volunteer effort at a time.
Oh, that's very, very smart.
So that simplifies our schedule, and then our family experiences more time to talk, more time to laugh, more time to play together, and what a difference that can make.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get to your book, Is There Really Sex After Kids? But Shelley has a quick question about the holidays.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning. So what is your advice then for peeling back life for the holidays?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things that we can do. One is we can move the focus on doing for others instead of the gifts that we're going to get.
Yeah.
I know one family that made that decision that they were going to just simply give everybody just a small number of gifts. They were going to simplify that down, but they were going to focus on what could they do for the homeless shelter, what could they do for homeless people in their community, for those that are less fortunate. I know another family that decided, since their family practiced the Christmas holiday along with their Christian faith, the 3 wise men brought 3 gifts to Jesus. So they decided they were going to make that the tradition for their family that everybody would get just 3 gifts on Christmas morning.
Yeah, in America, that's frugal.
It is.
Because we're used to getting 37. I'm going to quick go to your book because I know there are moms and dads out there that really want to understand this. Is there really sex after kids? What's the answer, dear?
Well, the answer is yes, but of course it means that we have to actually do some intentional things to make that happen. And one of the first things that we need to do is make our marriage a priority. In fact, my husband and I have been married 28 years, 18 of them happily.
Tell us about that.
I wish that wasn't true, but it is. And we've had some very difficult seasons. And we found ourselves sitting in a counselor's office, and our marriage was absolutely, as far as we were concerned, it was over. I mean, we looked at each other and said, I don't love you anymore. We had 3 children at the time, and we decided we were going to at least give it some effort. And slowly but surely, through counseling, we found that we had made a very big mistake. And that big mistake is we'd put our children before our marriage. And when we began to slowly turn that around and make our marriage the priority, what we found is it was actually what our children needed.
Yeah, it's a gift to your kids.
It is, because if mommy and daddy are okay, then their world is okay.
Yeah.
And because mom and dad are their world. And so slowly but surely we began to take time for each other. We began to date, because what happens outside the bedroom directly affects what happens inside the bedroom.
Amen, yep.
So we have to take time for each other. We have to learn to laugh together. And I would just encourage anybody listening today, if you haven't been on a date with your spouse in the last 2 weeks, get it on the calendar within the next week to 2 weeks and start making that a regular part of your week, your month, whatever will work for you. Put it on the calendar, because that directly affects what happens inside the bedroom.
Yeah, and I don't want any single moms out there to feel judged today, or any divorced moms or widowed moms, because that's not what we're about. But we do have this thing in America where people are self-righteous about, oh, my kids come first. My kids, all about my kids. And it's like, I don't necessarily think that's a good choice. I mean, the surveys show kids who have struggling parents or divorced parents or whatever, they want their parents together. So if you're working on your marriage, you're working for your kids.
You are. Exactly. Taking care of your marriage is taking care of your kids.
Yeah.
And that means occasionally we have to leave them. It means occasionally we have to get creative about maybe finding a babysitter. I mean, we didn't live near extended family, so they couldn't go to grandma's. We didn't have a budget that could afford to hire a babysitter, so we traded with other couples to get time for each other.
Yeah.
So we would watch their kids one Friday night, and they would watch our kids the next Friday night.
Well,
You've got to stop the excuses, and we've got to say, let's make this happen.
Okay, we've only got about 2 minutes left. Shell, I know you do date night, don't you?
We do date night, and we're strong believers in that. Marriage comes before kids.
Yeah. My husband and I just did a date night last night, so I'm so glad we got that in before this interview. What do you say for moms out there who say, well, I am not in love with my husband anymore, or he's not in love with me anymore. How do we really fall back in love? Is that what happened to you and your husband? Did you fall back in love?
We did, but it took time, and it started by choosing love. Because you see, in our culture, we believe that love is a feeling, and what really my husband and I came to understand is love is actually a choice, and that feeling will follow. Sometimes it takes a while, and I will say it took us months, if not even close to a year, before. So we made one loving choice at a time. I would speak to him in a harsh way, and in the past, and then I would start to do that, and I would stop, and I would speak to him in a kind way. That was a loving choice. And he was doing things that, where he was choosing to love. And slowly but surely we began, as we invested in our marriage, as we took time for each other, as we learned how to laugh again, as we stepped away from the craziness of every day, slowly but surely the feeling returned. But it didn't return without the choice being made first.
Absolutely. Even if you don't feel love, you make the choice toward love. You know what? You have written so many fabulous books. You really are worthy of 3 or 4 segments, Jill. So will you come back sometime?
Oh, I'd love to.
Well, you wrote Professionalizing Motherhood, which is one I really wanted to discuss, because it's all about the fact that we're really professionals as moms. Please tell people very quickly about Hearts at Home, your website, how people can come to your conferences and contact you and so on.
Well, Hearts at Home is an organization for moms, and we do mom conferences, and we do have one coming up next fall in October. You can find all the information about that on our website, which is heartsathome.org. Put out heartsathome.org. I also have a daily blog for moms, and it's jillsavage.org, and they can find that daily encouragement. So, join us. Find some of our resources. We just have great resources out there for moms.
Fabulous, Jill. Well, God bless you. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.